The world does not care about your good intentions. It only respects your leverage. You have been sold a dangerous lie since the day you were born, the lie that the pure of heart will inevitably inherit the earth. The brutal reality is that the earth belongs to those who understand the chessboard, and the pure of heart are merely the disposable pieces pushed around by those who do. Niccolò Machiavelli did not write a manual for villains. That is the pathetic excuse used by weak thinkers who are terrified of the truth. What he actually taught was far more dangerous than simple evil. He taught surgical awareness. He taught the mechanics of survival. He taught how to stand completely upright in a room where every single person is already lying to your face. Look around your current environment, your workplace, your social circles. Strip away the pleasantries, and you will notice something chilling. The people who manipulate the most effectively rarely look aggressive. They do not raise their voices. They look incredibly calm. They appear deeply reasonable. They smile warmly at you, while quietly and methodically rearranging the board against you. Machiavelli understood this centuries before modern psychology even had a name for it. Power does not come from screaming. It comes from positioning, from lethal patience, from knowing exactly how human beings operate when they think the lights are off. If someone plays a dirty game with you, do not flatter them by thinking they are stronger than you. They are not. They simply understand a fundamental truth of human behavior that you were shielded from. They understand psychology without the comforting illusion of morality. They know exactly how your expectations work. They know how your immediate emotional reactions expose your deepest weaknesses. They understand the crushing weight of silence and how to use it to create unbearable pressure. But most importantly, they know that good people hesitate. Good people wait for the universe to correct the balance. Good people cling to the naive hope that things will naturally improve. They expect fairness in an unfair system. They genuinely believe that pure intentions matter more than raw outcomes. Dirty players do not think like that. They do not attack your towering strengths. That would be foolish and costly. Instead, they attack your expectations. They sit back and wait for you to automatically assume decency. The exact moment you give them the benefit of the doubt, they strike. This is not an invitation to become cruel. It is not a guide to lying, cheating, or causing unnecessary pain. It is an awakening to the environment you are already bleeding in, because refusing to look at the game does not remove you from the game. It only makes you the easiest target on the board. Machiavelli never promised peace of mind. He promised position. He promised crystalline clarity in a world drowning in delusion. He promised that once you finally understand the architecture of power, you will never be surprised by human betrayal again. Let us dissect the anatomy of the target. Why do dark triad personalities and ruthless manipulators absolutely love good people? Machiavelli observed a terrifying dynamic that most people refuse to accept because it shatters their fragile self-image. The individuals who get targeted the absolute most are not the weak, the stupid, or the incapable. They are the good. They are the consistent. They are the transparent. You behave the same way in every situation, with every person, expecting the exact same moral standard in return. You view this as integrity. The manipulator views this as predictability. And predictability in a hostile environment is not a virtue. It is a fatal exposure. Your consistency becomes a beautifully drawn map for anyone who wants to exploit you. Predators do not hunt for power directly. They hunt for patterns. They silently observe who pauses before responding, who offers the benefit of the doubt, who agonizes over disappointing others. They watch with predatory patience to see who feels physically uncomfortable with silence, who rushes to fill the void to clarify their intentions, who feels immense guilt simply for asserting a basic boundary. These are not character flaws. They are signals. And signals in the dark invite wolves. A good person assumes shared values. You assume the rules of engagement are mutual. You assume fairness is a universal law. That blind assumption is your opening wound. The very second you believe the other side will act the way you would act, you hand them total control over the timing, the tone, and the final outcome of the interaction. Dirty players do not need to overpower you with force. They simply sit back and wait for you to limit yourself. They understand that morality without acute awareness becomes a rigid prison. When a manipulator knows exactly how long you will tolerate disrespect, how much deliberate confusion you will excuse, how many second chances you will blindly give before finally pushing back, they no longer have to guess. They calculate. This is why they feel so comfortable escalating their disrespect slowly. They test the water with micro-violations. A slight delay in a response, a subtle misrepresentation of facts, a tiny shift of responsibility onto your shoulders. Then, they watch your reaction. If you remain polite, they advance the front line. If you remain hopeful, they continue the extraction. If you explain your feelings instead of observing their actions, they adjust their approach and dig deeper. Every single emotional reaction you give teaches them exactly how far they can push without facing a single consequence. You believe your restraint will eventually earn their respect. Machiavelli saw the exact opposite. Restraint, without the threat of leverage, invites endless pressure. When they realize you will always choose harmony over your own position, they stop negotiating with you. They simply take. The danger is not your kindness. The danger is that you are entirely readable. The solution is not to become evil. It is strategic ambiguity. You must change what you reveal externally. You owe absolutely zero consistency to those who have not earned your loyalty. You owe no clarity to someone actively gathering intelligence against you. You owe no predictability to people who extract value from your hesitation. The moment you stop assuming decency, you regain your leverage. We transition now from understanding their parasitic nature to weaponizing your own strategy. Consider the supreme art of controlled weakness. Machiavelli understood deeply that raw force attracts resistance, exactly the way heat attracts pressure. When your strength is completely obvious and heavily advertised, others immediately adjust their tactics. They defend themselves. They build massive psychological walls. They close their ranks against you. But when your power is carefully hidden, people naturally relax. They exhale. They casually expose their true intentions and deepest vulnerabilities without ever realizing they are doing it. This is where controlled weakness transforms from submission into a devastating, calculated trap. Predators in your circle are constantly scanning the perimeter for threats. They do not fear your loud aggression half as much as they fear your silent unpredictability. Loud dominance is incredibly easy to read and counter. Silent capability is terrifying. When you present yourself as fully confident and perfectly aware, others become highly cautious. They guard their words. They protect their angles. But when you deliberately allow small, calculated gaps to be seen, the entire atmosphere shifts in your favor. Controlled weakness is not acting like a fool. It is intentionally allowing them to underestimate your reach, your intellect, and your ultimate intent. It is choosing exactly when not to correct a blatant misconception, when not to challenge a lie, when not to reveal your full understanding of their game. This manufactured restraint creates a false sense of absolute safety. They begin to assume they are leaps and bounds ahead of you. They rush their strategic decisions. They over-explain their hidden motives. They eagerly show you priorities they would normally guard with their lives. Impatience is merely a byproduct of perceived advantage. The moment they firmly believe you lack options, they escalate without securing their own defensive position. You become the silent observer, watching them bleed valuable information while you hold your ground. Which brings us to the ultimate surrender of power, the burning compulsion to explain yourself. Machiavelli warned heavily against unnecessary honesty, not because the truth is inherently wrong, but because the very act of explanation shifts total control entirely away from you. The exact instant you open your mouth to begin justifying your actions, your boundaries, or your decisions, you instantly surrender your authority. What you naively thought was building clarity suddenly becomes a massive structural opening for them. Your desire for transparency turns into their strongest leverage. Explanations actively invite evaluation. The moment you explain, you are begging them to judge whether your reasoning is acceptable. You are no longer acting from a position of absolute sovereignty. You are desperately seeking their approval. Dark triad personalities recognize this blood in the water immediately. They will never argue your final outcome. Instead, they will systematically dissect your reasoning, because reasoning can always be twisted and weaponized. Every single detail you provide is another fresh weapon you hand them to distort and reframe against you. They are not listening to understand your heart. They are listening to extract your weaknesses. Silence, on the other hand, offers absolutely no surface area to attack. It cannot be edited. It cannot be misquoted. What remains unsaid can never be weaponized. True authority rarely explains itself. It simply announces its decisions. The more you over-communicate, the more they test your borders. Furthermore, you must understand that masters of the game never attack directly. That is the hallmark of an emotional amateur. You must master the subtle art of positioning. Open conflict creates massive resistance, high visibility, and unnecessary risk. Positioning, however, reshapes the entire outcome without a single drop of friction. You do not push them into a corner. You delicately place them inside a carefully constructed circumstance where any response they choose works entirely against them. Instead of openly accusing them, you plant a subtle suggestion. Instead of violently opposing them, you quietly reframe the entire context. You arrange the conditions so perfectly that you limit their options before they even realize a game has commenced. You are not forcing them to act. You are gently guiding them into the snare. And once they finally react, the environment has already been rigged to make them appear highly emotional, desperately impatient, and completely unreasonable, while you remain the absolute picture of calm composure. Their reputation erodes not through your loud accusations, but through your devastating, silent implication. Do not fall into the psychological trap of fairness. Fairness is a comfortable illusion designed to keep the masses docile. It offers you moral comfort, but it guarantees absolutely zero strategic balance. Fairness only functions inside a shared, mutual agreement with honorable people. Outside of that rare sanctuary, it becomes your most fatal vulnerability. When you rigidly insist on maintaining equal standards in an entirely unequal, hostile environment, you sever your own ability to adapt. You hesitate to escalate because you are terrified of being seen as unjust. They coldly calculate their advantage, while you frantically calculate your ethics. The mismatch guarantees your defeat before the board is even set. Justice without ruthless enforcement is merely symbolic decoration. They are completely unmoved by your symbols. They only respond to pain and cost. Make their disrespect incredibly expensive. Master the agonizing psychology of the delayed response. Society has brainwashed you into believing that speed equals undeniable confidence, and that patience is merely pathetic hesitation. In the raw mechanics of power, immediate reactions almost exclusively serve the predator and never the prey. They aggressively push for quick answers and fast decisions, and instant emotional engagement. Why? Because relentless momentum strips away your ability to choose deliberately. A delayed response, however, violently disrupts their entire expectation. When they eagerly anticipate your reaction and receive nothing but heavy, suffocating stillness, paranoia begins to form. That absolute silence becomes actively hostile even though not a single word is being spoken. They begin to rapidly question their own motives. They reconsider their entire strategy. The advantage quietly and completely shifts into your hands. Time brutally amplifies imbalance. Those who rush bleed valuable information. Those who wait to gather it all. Understand why they desperately try to confuse your core identity. Machiavelli observed that total control becomes completely effortless the exact moment a target loses their internal certainty. when you no longer trust your own internal compass. You begin desperately looking outward for their confirmation. Dark Triad players understand this psychological vulnerability deeply. Instead of attacking your overt behavior, they surgically target your self-concept. They drop subtle, toxic commentary. They frame malicious insults as deep concern. The ultimate goal is not genuine correction. It is total mental disorientation. When you begin questioning whether you are acting out of character, you drastically slow down. You second-guess your primal instincts. Your vital energy is redirected inward toward crippling self-evaluation while they continue advancing their pieces. You must anchor your identity privately, completely independent of social validation. When your values are self-established, their external noise simply fades into irrelevance. Deploy the most incredibly underrated weapon in your arsenal: calculated inconsistency. Stability deeply comforts the weak, but absolute uncertainty severely unsettles those desperately seeking control. When your behavior becomes entirely too consistent, it mutates into a predictable pattern that others can easily anticipate. Anticipation breeds planning, and planning creates lethal leverage. They do not fear your overt strength. They fear your calculated unpredictability. Controlled inconsistency is not emotional disorder. It is selective variation. It means strategically choosing exactly when to be warmly available and exactly when to be coldly distant. This deliberate variation shatters their expectations. They cannot map your habits. They cannot measure your response time. Predictable behavior breeds gross entitlement. Irregularity completely removes this unearned advantage. When your access is never guaranteed, their respect for you increases quietly and exponentially. Recognize exactly why simply walking away manufactures profound fear. Machiavelli recognized that sudden disengagement deeply terrifies those who feed entirely on your reaction. Toxic players expect your active involvement. They anticipate your loud defense or your frantic explanation. Your participation validates their existence. When you completely remove yourself, the entire structure they rely upon simply collapses into dust. Walking away brutally denies them their necessary reinforcement. Absence completely disrupts their narrative control, because, as long as you remain present, they can shape the interpretation. When you evaporate, that control vanishes instantly. Silence creates a terrifying vacuum. Walking away broadcasts ultimate self-sufficiency. It clearly communicates that your outcomes do not depend on their engagement. Fear naturally arises from this stark uncertainty. They are left agonizing over whether they fatally misjudged you, overreached their bounds, or completely lost control of the game. We arrive at the final, unforgiving Machiavellian truth. Machiavelli never once promised eternal harmony. He understood that peace is a temporary illusion, but strategic position endures forever. The ultimate truth is not about aggressively winning petty exchanges. It is about becoming entirely unreachable. True power is never about loud confrontation. It is about severe cost. When interacting with you becomes psychologically and emotionally expensive, their behavior magically changes. Becoming untouchable does not require loud dominance. It requires absolute self-command. When your reactions are surgically measured, your explanations are practically non-existent, and your engagement is hyper-selective. The predators naturally adjust. They test you far less. They redirect their parasitic attention elsewhere. Your ultimate objective is not domination over the weak. It is elevation far beyond their filthy reach. When your internal state cannot be manipulated by their chaos, their external behavior loses all relevance. Position is true freedom, and freedom is the ultimate undeniable advantage. If they choose to play dirty, never mirror their pathetic chaos. Mirroring simply traps you inside their tiny frame. It forces you to react to rules you did not personally design. Outsmarting them mentally is about crystalline clarity. Clarity about exactly who you are, exactly what you allow, and exactly where your precious energy goes. Power does not shout. Power does not rush. Power never explains itself to feel safe. Power calmly adjusts the environment and allows the weak to expose themselves. You do not win by fighting dirty. You win by becoming absolutely untouchable.